on this. All right. All right. So the materials list. I apologize again for bringing out or sending you the other day the materials list for a different class. That was a little, you know, that was a mistake on my part. But everybody got this, correct? This is what I'm going to be working with in the course, okay? Sketchbook, Moleskine or other. I like these pencils, 4B, 6B, or 8B drawing pencils. The reason why I like them is because you can get a wide range of values out of them. 8B is probably the softest you can get. 6B you can get as light and dark as possible. 4B is kind of moving more into a harder realm. I think they've got a, I don't think they've got a 3B or a 2B. They might have a 2B, and then it moves into HB, and they're all hard pencils. But in here, for sketching, the softer the lead or graphite, the better, okay? I'd like everybody to get a Sharpie, thin black drawing pens. This is very important here, this 2x18 grid ruler. They have them at Art Essentials. I went in there and he says they've got plenty of them in there. All right, you need this because it'll just help you make better, better rectangles in doodling and in designing your compositions for thumbnails. All right, we've got the clear triangle. This is also good for doing diagonals, okay, drawing diagonals across and seeing where your armatures are going to be going, okay. Kneaded eraser, I choose kneaded erasers because they don't leave a lot of residue, if any, when you're erasing your drawings, okay. We're working in acrylics in this class, mostly just because it's easier for people, but you're welcome to use oils, watercolors as well. Again, it's not really a technique painting class because, you know, some of the, I'm not going to get into the mediums and everything that will help you make better oil paintings or better acrylic paintings. I'm not going to get into that here. It's just you're going to be picking what you want to use for the assignments and doing the best you can with it, okay? And then we'll just critique with what you got. Okay, this is when we taught indoors here. We were using Liquin for oils as a dryer. Okay, for brushes, okay, to move the acrylics around. I don't know who here is working in acrylics already. I choose Hog's Hair bristle brushes. Robert Simmons, I think, is a good one. Yeah, I use these here, these Escoda Classicos. They're very long filberts, and I love them because I can be more painterly and loose with them. Okay, so that's what I like to use, but do the best you can. Again, this is adult ed, and I know some of you are on budgets, and don't go out and buy yourself you know, the top of the line brushes like rosemary brushes. Just come in with something that's sufficient, or I say come in, or go get something that's sufficient. But remember this, you know, if this is not a time to be poverty conscious. If you're gonna cheap out and buy the cheapest of everything because you don't want to spend money, you know, the product you produce may not be as good as if you had top rate material to work with. All right. If you want to, that same teacher that told me about the phone booth, he said, if you want to become a millionaire, you got to paint like a millionaire. All right. So I keep that in the back of my mind. You know, it's like the difference between driving a Fiat or a Cadillac. All right. So these are the colors that I'd like everybody to have. In the class, we'll be working with ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, or Prussian blue. You can also use phthalo blue in place of Prussian blue. So what we have here is a warm blue and a cool blue and another cool blue here. Yellow ochre, warm yellow, cad yellow light, or cad yellow medium. These are really good colors to work with. Cadmium red light and alizarin crimson. That's a warm red and a cool red. Titanium white or ivory black. Burn umber and or raw umber. Burn umber is a warmer brown and raw umber is a cooler brown. So what makes it a warmer brown is there's more of an influence of red here. And what makes raw umber a cooler brown means there's it's leaning a little towards blue. Okay. Yep.
This is Georgia.
Hi.
I have Mars Black. Is that acceptable?
Fine. That's
okay.
fine. Mars Black is fine.
I don't know the difference.
Oh, well, it's difference in temperature. You've got ivory black, Mars Black, lamp black. Ivory black is the more neutral.
Okay.
Okay. Mars Black, sometimes, depending on your manufacturer, Mars Black could be bluer, have a little more blue in it. And some I've found have more red. Okay. And lamp black is also kind of a warmer black. All right. So the ivory black is a little more balanced, if you can imagine a shade that's balanced. Okay. All right. Is that okay? You got that? So in here, 6x8, 8x10, 11x14, or 12x16. That's what I would work with. You're going to see these are standard sizes. When we move into the golden section, you're going to be learning how to make canvases that are more aesthetically perfect just by measuring out the grid patterns and the size of the canvas or canvas board. So instead of say a root 2, 3, or root 4 rectangles, which these are all root rectangles, you'll be learning how to make the golden mean and golden section canvases. Okay, which will be more perfect in their design aesthetically. And you'll learn the context to that as well, from all the way back to Roman Greco design to Japanese woodblock prints, to how that influenced the masters of the late 19th century artists in Europe. And so there. So that's what these are. These are, you can buy these store-bought sizes. And don't worry about the golden means yet. Okay, we've got a couple of weeks more to go before we get into perfecting the format sizes toward that. Okay, watercolors. We've got 300-pound watercolor paper is preferred, but 140-pound will suffice. The reason why I say 300-pound watercolor paper is it is more expensive, but it's also more durable. There's nothing more frustrating than having a 140-pound watercolor paper that tends to tear, or you can't work into it. You can't be more aggressive with it and remove some of the paint. It's less forgivable and less malleable than 300-pound watercolor paper. So, but it is what it is. You'll paint with whatever you can get your hands on. All right, so these are the books that I recommend here to have in your library to begin with here. This Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting, and he deals with design in there as well, and balance and color and structure. Edgar Payne, Composition for Outdoor Painting, is a great book for basic design, and he also deals with color palette, color schemes, and color choices. I'll be referring to elements within all of these books, by the way, during this course. The Critic Sees by Sarah Gill, and I say if you can find it, I heard it was like it could be $400 now for an original, if you can find one. But I don't know how much a used one would be, but I mean, it's important, but I don't know if it's that important. And then Hawthorne on Painting is probably the gift of a lifetime here to oneself. It's a simple book, costs about $6.89 at Chaucer's bookstore, or you can order it on Amazon. And So, and there's history and context to Charles Hawthorne, Edgar Payne, and Emil Carlson, and who they taught and who studied from them, and the influence that they continue to have from when they taught back in the early 19th century. And that artists of today still study and research with them looking over their shoulders. Okay? All right. So any questions on materials?
I have a question.
All right.
So I got some paint brushes and I don't know if they're all necessary.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Hold on a second. Let me bring you up here. All right. Ren, where are you? Okay. They look good. They look good. They're synthetic. You've got a combination of flat brushes and filberts, and they're fine. Those are fine. They're perfect.
Okay.
They're good for.
Is that too many?
No, but you're going to find that you don't need more than like 4 brushes.
Right.
Because when you're working with color,
Yeah.
you know, it's okay in the beginning stages of a design or a designed painting to work with one brush and hardly clean it at all.
Okay.
So the colors that you're mixing to establish the foundation of a painting, those
Okay.
the colors will be influencing each other as you put them on in mass. All
Okay.
right? And so that's one way of guaranteeing
color would you
harmony
say
to a
that-
painting. I'm sorry?
All right. Which 4 would you say that I need or that are best?
The biggest one, the smallest
Okay.
one, and 2 mid ones. How's that?
Okay.
I mean,
So
I'm
these
doing
are the
to see.
smallest. Is there one of those? They're a little different.
Yeah, I can't see. Yeah, those are fine. Both of those
Okay.
are fine. You're totally
Okay.
fine. Okay?
And then just like a medium one. There's
Yeah,
an
medium
angled
one is fine.
one.
Yes. Now there are, I
Okay.
mean, again, this is not a techniques class, but there are ways of holding a brush to make
Yeah.
a more effective way of applying the paint in all directions, and also quantity of paint. So not only are
Okay.
certain brushes designed to hold paint, some more efficiently than others, but they're designed to apply paint in a way that you will get a certain effect of that paint's application. You'll get
Okay.
edges. And a lot of what I'm going to teach here today, you're going to see a PowerPoint on edges that's going to be affected by the brush you're holding and how things are, how the paint is applied. Okay, so
Okay.
stand by. There's a lot of depth in. Okay.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you.
Any questions?
I do. I have a question.
Okay.
So it's maybe you said this. The clear grid ruler, 2 inches by 18. I have like a 12 inch. Should I get the 2 inch by 18 inch?
Yes.
And where did you say they have a lot of them? What was
Art
the store?
Essentials. Art
At
Essentials.
Art Essentials.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then
so on it here, I have like 4 of them, and I don't have a single one with me right now. Otherwise, I'd show you.
okay, and then I got this Critic Sees book used.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say that it was only like, I think $8 or $12.
Perfect.
So I think they're out there. And this one is signed by Sarah Gill, October 1996.
How much you want? I'll pay you $10 for it.
I don't know if you can see that.
I
So
can't. I got to find you on here. Hold
Oh.
on a second.
I don't know, is it backwards? I'm holding up the book. You see
Yeah.
it?
No, not yet. I think I'm running into a little issue here with
It's Lisa Moore.
Lisa Moore. Yeah, no, I'm looking for you here, kiddo. Anyway, it's all right. It's really not important right now, but glad you got that book.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
I have a question about the
Who's
paint
that?
colors, Jovian.
Okay.
I'm taking a bunch of these and I'm definitely on a budget. And some of the classes said that you could get away with white, yellow, red, blue, and then I got black. Would that totally mess me up in this class, or can I mix them?
White, red, yellow, blue, and black. That's fine.
Okay.
You should be able to mix all the colors you need from that. That's more like a Zorn palette. Okay.
Okay.
White,
you.
yellow, ochre, black, and red. That's all you really need.
What's the ochre?
Ochre is a real warm, earthy yellow.
Okay. I don't think I
Okay.
got that. I think I got a different yellow. Okay.
Okay. Well, what is the yellow on yours?
I think I got, let me look.
All right. Well, you know what? We gotta move
Could
along.
you repeat the basic colors that we would need for paint? If we're doing basic.
Right. So can you see my screen, or shall I share it again? Here, I'm going to
I
share
can
this.
see it.
All right. See on my screen right now? Colors.
It's visible.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the colors there. I actually sent them
Uh-huh.
out in the materials list.
So in acrylic, I have brilliant yellow,
That's fine.
and in oil, lemon yellow.
Well, you're not going to be painting oils and acrylics, are you?
Yes, I am, in different classes.
Well, what are you going to be painting in this class?
This class, acrylic.
Okay. Then use the brilliant yellow.
Okay.
Now, just so you know, if you're going to do oils and acrylics combined, you can paint oils over acrylics, but you can't paint acrylics over oils. All right. So if you're
Okay.
going to use that yellow oil color, make sure you're doing it over an acrylic. Don't try to take that lighter yellow and put it over a paint. All right. It won't bond. And we're into bonding things here. Okay. Okay. Any other questions on the materials list? Yes.
What red would you suggest, and what blue, and the ochre, if you're doing very, very basic colors?
All right. These are basic colors. Can you see my my list right now?
Yeah.
So that's it. This is what I recommend.
Oh, okay.
See them?
Yeah, there's just a lot of different reds, a lot of different yellows, and
That's right. That's right. One is a warm and one is a cool of each primary
Okay.
color. Okay.
Okay.
So we got ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, and Prussian blue. I wouldn't put them on there if I didn't recommend them, and I'm recommending them because in context, when I teach this course, we're going to be utilizing every one of those colors that you see up there, but there's context to them, whether it's a Japanese woodblock design that we're studying, or an Anders Zorn, or a Goya. You know, there's things that we're going to be studying, and so I'm giving you these colors in advance, in anticipation for the context of what it is I'm trying to teach.
Okay.
Trust me on that. Okay? Does that work, Ren?
Yeah, it works.
Okay. Okay. All right. And let's see. You can also use gouache in here if you want. That's totally fine. It's just you'll get further and farther along if you have these basic colors in your toolbox. Okay. I mean, I know of an artist that only works with red, yellow, and blue. Okay. He works with CAD red light, CAD yellow medium, and cobalt blue. Those three colors, white and black. And there's reasonings, and I can share with you the palette configuration on how to mix those colors to make more beautiful colors. And so you don't have to go out and get a wide range of colors. You just need those three primaries and know how to.
Thomas, can you
them.
repeat what you just said? The three primaries. My computer went. So
Oh.
what did you just say?
I just said that there are three primary colors, and his name is Filberto Lomelli, and he does astounding paintings, and he
He
uses
does.
CAD red light, and you can also go CAD red medium if you want. CAD red light, cobalt blue, and CAD yellow medium. Those 3 primary colors, plus white, plus black. And he hardly ever uses black. So you can mix what it is you're after without using black, but you just won't be able to get the beautiful gray tones and shades. So if you're interested in color, I'll be teaching a color course in January. All right, and I teach you how to work with those minimal palettes and get those beautiful color relationships going.
I'm there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Anybody?
I do. I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about what all you're saying here with all these different paints and brushes and whatever.
Okay.
And so I can set I'm not sure what we're going to be doing. Should I be setting myself up for the watercolors or for the acrylics? Because those are the only 2 options I have.
Acrylics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Do that. Today we're just going to be working with graphite, and probably next week as well. Graphite and limited palette, if anything. So you won't have to
Okay.
worry about the paints yet.
Okay.
All right. Okay. How's that? Everybody okay? Everybody hanging in there? There's a lot of depth. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So that's it for the materials list. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to email me or give me a call, and we can work that out. All right. So I'm going to subdue this.
Thomas, I have one more color question. It's
All right.
burning. I have, my yellow says cadmium yellow. Is
That's
that
fine.
light, medium? Would that be light or medium?
It depends on the manufacturer. The more
okay.
specific, look at, all you need is cadmium yellow, exactly what you have. It's probably a CAD yellow medium. All right.
Okay.
But listen to this. The art world is a scam. Okay. Especially in my opinion, the manufacturers, they find out ways to alter a simple color by adding, another color to it, a little bit of shade and a little bit of tint, and then they give it a whole new name. And before you know it, you'll have like 5 to 6 variations of a simple primary color sitting there in front of you. And all they've done is altered it via adding a little black, a little white, and another either analogous hue or complementary or split complementary hue to that color. And then they put it in a tube, and there's another way of getting your money from you. So that's why I say it's a scam, in my opinion. And I don't take that lightly. But the more you learn to mix color, the more you'll learn to make your own, and you'll save money on that. Okay, but in the beginning stages, rather than going out and getting a plethora of color or colors and think you have to have, 18 colors on your palette, you really don't. You just need no more than 6. A warm and a cool of each primary color, plus white and black. All right, how's that?
That's good, sir. For purists among you, if you're really concerned about these things, there are something called pigment designations. There's little numbers on the back of the tube.
Yeah.
So true cadmium yellow light is PY35. Cadmium yellow medium is PY37. If it says hue, it may not be true cadmium.
Right. Hue just
probably-
means you're in the neighborhood, okay? You're
Yeah.
in the neighborhood of that color. I'm doing this, imagine a color wheel. You all can see my screen, yes? Color wheel. Wherever the color is on that, okay? You've got analogous colors that are still of that hue because they're adjacent. And then you've got variations of that hue because they've got they're in that harmony. Okay? It's a hue. So, and you're right, Tim, it's not, may not be the pure, it's just, it's a ballpark figure of a color.
Yeah, good is good enough.
Yeah. Speaking of ballpark figure, how about them Dodgers, huh? Woohoo!
Hey,
Wow, they're in the World Series again. All right. Now,
Yep.
any other questions? All right. Okay, so here we go. I would encourage you all to, like I said, at least for the next 8 weeks, surround yourself with art. You know, really, as I said earlier, become curious. Surround yourself with art books. Look at newspapers, magazines. Start questioning design. Start questioning why things look the way they do, and what thought went into that. Why do things work better than others? How can things be improved? Come up, you know, pay attention to what's in the news. If something happens in the world art-wise, you know, I used to say cut it out. I think you can just look on your computer now and find information and do screenshots. You can share with the rest of the class things that you discovered during the course, okay? Or during the course of the week, I should say. Let me finish that. And just share, because that's how we learn. We want to share with each other. The more knowledge we have, the more choices we can make as well. All right. Like for instance, there's we don't have the time to really get into this today, but when I find something, I'll put a link on it here, and I'll just click on it and it'll bring up an article. Okay. And then I can share it with you. So the whole point of this process of design is to help you as individual artists find your authentic voice. What feels right to you? Okay, what is it that that motivates you, that moves you, that inspires you about something else? Okay, whether it's a painting, a drawing, a photograph, the couch you're sitting on, the colors within an interior of a building that you're walking through, the sounds, you know, everything is a product of design. So you're in process of learning about your authentic voice and how you can express that. If something moves you, why does it move you? How can you represent that? How can you explore that? Okay, so we're paying attention to our and listening to what's going on. So I put down here your point of view, the angle or expression. Point of view, sometimes I'll say POV. How does something affect you? And then and why? This is also what your moleskin is for. It's kind of like a journal in a sense, that you're just paying attention to something and taking your eyes away from the news of the day and exploring some inner voice within yourself. Okay, and then how in your art will you be able to communicate that voice? What medium will you choose? Okay, will it be a 2-dimensional expression, a 3-dimensional, or a 4th-dimensional? So I put Hilma af Klint is a woman from the 19th century, late 19th century, who they're looking at her as being the first artist to create from the 4th dimension and planting the seeds for Kandinsky and some of the expressionist artists in the 19-teens and 20s in their abstractions. She did what was called 4th dimensional drawing and painting, and we'll get into that in about week number 5 here. And it's more surrendering to spirit and having things happen automatically without your your intention. That's like automatic writing, but with a brush. Okay. This class is about 2-dimensional and how to best communicate. And art in general, you hope to stop the eye. Okay. You know, this world that we live in right now, this 21st century, has so much stimuli in it. And everyone's got an iPhone now and an iPad and a computer and back before the mid 20th century, before televisions, art was the way to communicate, and people would actually make a huge deal about art and artists, and they would go to museums to see the latest creations. Now they don't have to do that. Now they can just create their own art if they want to via the programs that are on their iPhones. And everyone could be an artist. So, which is kind of a bummer, but it isn't. It's actually, it can really help us evolve, I think, as a human species, is if everybody has ideas that they can, that they can express, and they have a tool in their hand that they can do it with. Anyways, where everybody used to be able to go to museums to see what was going on, now they don't. So there were so many forms of medias with the movie industry and plays and things like that that are in competition with each other. So they said that the I say they, but it was a study done in the 70s, I believe. Someone could look that up. That the average viewing of a painting on the wall in a museum is 4 seconds. All right, so knowing that, you know, if you're going to create a work of art and your motivation is to, you know, to get into the museums or to hang on the wall in a gallery, or even to hang on someone's wall in their home, or even your home, what good is it if nobody pays attention to it? All right, so the designs, the design structure and the colors that are used and the concept or the content of a painting or drawing is in competition these days with the electronic universe here. And so hopefully what I teach you in this course is going to give you choices to make, so at least you may stand a better chance of stopping someone's eye and holding their attention for more than 4 seconds, even to the point that people want to see that painting over and over again, and think about it, and hopefully every time they look at it, they see something new or something different, or there's a new revelation about it. All right, so this is, again, this is about, for you guys, it's learning to express yourselves, finding your voice that's personally you and no one else. You know, we're going to study masterworks in here, but those masterworks that we study are those artists who had questions themselves, that went and studied masters before them, and really focused on what it was they were creating. They weren't so interested in inspiring another generation or two down the way, but they were trying to, you know, express themselves and hope that they could have an influence on the general public and on others, because they loved so much. They were passionate about what they did. So what I wrote down here was, you know, you write and you sketch and you doodle and you jot down ideas. I put become ideatians. Okay, you're nothing more than ideas here. Everything has a possibility to be improved upon, or a new insight can be revealed. And that is really the spark that should be at the initiation for what it is you're creating. Okay, it's all about the idea. But we're not in here to necessarily create, what should we say, decorative art. Although we will be studying some art that is decorative. I don't mean in depth, but I will show you some art that is a balance or straddles the world between the decorative and the conceptual, okay, or low art and high art. We will study some of that in order to know where to go or not, okay? And I'll do my best to defend why not to go there and why to go somewhere else, okay? So I put the sketchbook out here. Your sketchbooks are working out flaws in advance. This is all preliminary stuff. I have a whole PowerPoint on preliminary sketches that I'll show you probably next week, because I don't know if we'll have time in this class today. but it shows masterworks and the preliminary sketches that the artist did prior to the masterwork that you see now in the museums or online. It's the initial concepts. And that, once you study art in depth, I find myself from experience always wanting to get to the configuration of what it is that the artists were after. Where did they start? What was their very first brushstroke on a painting? I want to get to the configuration, what's underneath the surface. That is really where all this is going, okay? And that's the basis for design here. Okay, I put down moleskins, and everyone carries one of these in their car, their purse, fill it by the end of the class in 8 weeks. Good luck with that. I'd be very impressed if you could do that. But it's a goal. Coffee shops are a great place to go, the beach, standing on the street, in front of the TV, doesn't really matter. You just be doing nothing but doodling. Doodling with intention, though. That you're doodling to make something or doodling to not make something, okay? All right, so what is design? Design's an arrangement of shapes, line, color to form a more perfect aestheticism. Nothing more. So this is a book by a man named John Ruskin, okay? We're going to take a little backtrack here to the late 18th, 19th century into the 20th century to start. If you know who Ruskin was, he was the man of the day who was in all the newspapers. He was the authority on design and how critical design was at that time. And he himself was an artist, and he wrote about artists, and how he wrote about the artists of his day that was published in the newspapers would either make or break an artist's career. So to him, there were two artists that he was thoroughly impressed with, especially by the mid to latter part of his career, and that was Turner and Whistler. And I'll show you some examples of their work in a minute here. So John Ruskin, this is an example of one of his watercolor washes. Okay, and you can see this is a part of design as well. What surrounds this drawing is what you would call a vertical format. This is a vertical format, and it amplifies the thrust and the design of the subject matter. It is like one stalk of barley, okay? It deals with everything from color temperature, simplified color palette, warms and cools, toned paper. It's very well rendered. I mean, this is a detailed study of I think it is a barley, but I don't know. Anyway, my point is, look, if you look at the design, I don't think I could shrink it down so you can see the whole thing. There we go. He could have had this on a square format, but because he didn't, it now supports the composition. It supports the subject matter. Now look what surrounds it. You can see the white format of this paper. Okay, I'm going to try to move it over. Let's see what happens when I do this. Nope, that didn't quite work. I'm sorry about that. I got to go back up. All right. Let's see if this works here. There we go. All right, now look what I just did there. I took that image and I moved it to the center of the format of this white Microsoft Word page. Now it's even more interesting because there's some symmetry to what it is I just did. Okay, there's equidistance from either side of the format in both directions. So not only is this more well represented graphically, but it's surrounded by a format that is also supportive in a way. to what it is I'm seeing. So I could actually have taken this and framed the image in a mat. Okay, imagine a frame being around the white of this paper. So it gives it a better presentation. Where it was before was right here. Okay, and that's not so hot. In that you've got, you know, now you have the negative space here and here and here are equidistant. So there's some redundancy in that respect. So somebody might want to frame this still and hang it on their wall, but you tell me, you know, is that more effective than this? Maybe it's subjective. Okay. These are also Ruskin's designs here. I'm going to come up. I'm going to zoom in on this one here. Paying attention to detail and then how the shapes all fit. This is, in this case, this is two-dimensional drawing here. How the shapes all fit within the format of the page. And then aesthetically, we're not going to get into this today, but you can notice that there's a temperature variation between the what's in light here, and then as things recede, how they merge together, they get relatively lighter and simplified. So this would be a warmer note, and these would be cooler notes, cooler, lighter, lighter, etc. There's a lot of detail where he wants your eye to go, okay? And not a lot of detail where he doesn't want your eye to go. Okay, it's another example of one of his drawings here. Drawings / paintings. Okay, on a two-dimensional surface, this is just a study. He's just studying the relationships and the drawings. He's a little bit off in his values. I wish I could have a dialogue with him about it. And I can tell that he did this on location because I've made this mistake before in my paintings, where if I'm painting on location architecturally and I'm painting standing at an angle, say to the left, in my case, to the left of a canvas that's on my easel, painting what's out in front of me architecturally, instead of standing exactly straight in front of, you know, in the middle of my canvas when I'm drawing, it winds up being slightly askew. Can you see this angle here is slightly askew? And that's when, if he were painting this, he was probably standing right here as opposed to directly in the middle of the canvas when he drew. So as he drew over here, this may have looked correct, but that's from this angle. So that's why it looks slightly askew. All right. Anyway, what I'll say too is where does, within this sketch study, he shows you where he wants you to look, you know, the amount of detail and contrast, etc. And the color, you know, he didn't do any color here in this area, but he chose to paint in this area there, which is kind of working with violets and yellows, okay? So complementary hues here and variations on them. So now aesthetically speaking, again, it's not about getting every single detail everywhere, but only where he wants your eye to focus, okay? So it's, again, he's aware that it's not necessarily what goes into the work of art that makes it a work of art. It's what he chooses to edit out or not amplify or not spotlight, to use a Zoom term. Okay. All right. Now the content of that time period. Okay. I'm showing you this. This is architectural design. The 19th century. Okay. At the time of the 19th century, you had a lot of stuff going on in the world. Okay. A lot of stuff. You had a lot of wars and chaos and fury going on in the world, even in the 18th century into the 19th century. And so the art of the time was what Ruskin was doing, what Turner was doing, what Goya had been doing, and the sea of humanity that was being wiped out in wars around the world was pretty profound. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. In China, there was wars and rebellion. In Europe, there were wars and rebellion. In America, wars and revolution. In France, wars and revolution. And the way people looked at death at that time, I mean, people were not living that long, but the way they looked at death and the way people would go off and fight these wars, never to be seen again, really affected the psyches of the humanity at the time. And here in America, in the mid 19th century, the aesthetics of the architecture were, again, they were profound. Anybody know this building by chance? This is the upstate New York Mental Institution. Okay. Here's another picture of it down here. So at the time, they felt that the architecture would be healing for the mentally ill, or for soldiers who came back from war and had no way of coping with the traumas that they experienced. And there's actually a book called Angels in the Architecture, that this type of architecture was in support of healing. Now that's debatable, but it looks more like it looks austere. It looks like the Addams Family house. It looks like a freaking haunted mansion.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who knows? I mean, I do know a few of these, a few things that treatment-wise that would go on in these places. I've studied them. So one of the things that would happen back then, when these soldiers would go off to war and they'd never be seen again, people would really, they would strive to know. And around the mid-19th to late 19th century, the whole, when the American Civil War was happening, people really got into spiritualism and seances and trying to make connection with spirit. And so this all evolved around the same time. And that was also because design-wise, when people would go off to war and never be seen again, a lot of times there was no way to deal after battles with what to do with the bodies. They'd have these wars and battles, and they would just leave them all behind, not to be buried. They didn't even know what to do with them. And it wasn't until the American Civil War, around the time that these buildings were being created, that they started to, collect and organize ways of creating cemeteries around these military deaths. So there was a huge amount of consciousness that went into creating the architecture and what to do about death and with those who had died at that time. So that we're talking the 1860s and 1870s, all right? So now, that same time period, this is a Turner, okay? So I say we must study the Turner and Whistler. Now, I really didn't know much about them. I had actually gone up to Carmel. Let's see if I can shrink this down a little bit. Went up to Carmel to get into a gallery. That was, my teacher, Dan McCall, was in the Gallery Americana at the time up in Carmel. So I took all my paintings with me and I went in to the gallery and I looked. First I saw on the walls, I saw etchings by Turner and Whistler and Goya. And it turns out I walked into the wrong gallery, but a woman there asked me if she could help me. And then I told her I was there to get into a gallery. And she said, can I talk to you for a minute? So I wound up staying for 2 hours with her, and she dialogued about her life studying art history in Europe for 18 years. And long story short, she encouraged me to study these guys here, Turner and Whistler. Mostly because at their time, they were highly innovative in their designs. So first comes Turner, okay? You can see a little bit about this one here. All right, Turner would start off in an abstract fashion. A lot of abstraction laying in the imagery here. Okay, he knew about shape relationships. He knew about placement for organized locations to make more effective and aesthetic paintings. But along comes Whistler in the 1860s, 1870s. Okay, and you can see how he's minimalized things. Now, can everybody see what's going on in the background here? See the shapes?
Yep.
Take a look at this Whistler. So the artists of the time in the 1860s, like Whistler, would go to the museums and they would study the masters that came before them. And then they'd go out and they would create something representative in an even more abstract fashion. Okay. Now this might be a stretch and I might be completely wrong, but you know, it works for me. I see the structure underneath this, and now I'm looking at Whistler's painting. All right. So anyways, so this woman encouraged me to study Whistler and Turner
It
first.
looks like you just took away the ships.
That's right. That's right. So I
It's like-
found this last night. Okay, I'm putting together this thing, and
Yeah.
I'm basically I'm still learning. When I see an image, I go, wait, I've seen that before somewhere. Wait, oh, look at that. So that's all part of this process too, is to get to the configuration of how things evolved. Now, we're not going to do this in this class today, but I have a PowerPoint on art influencing life, influencing art, where I show an evolution of the artists of today and of the 20th century, and the art that came before them that they referenced to create their own work, and then those artists who used the artists before them to create their artwork. So I create a lineage in pattern and design to make a case that nothing is truly original. Everything comes before, and we're just working to develop from memory, oftentimes, another way of looking at it, but there is a basic design structure, okay? Now, at that same time period in the 19th century, as those austere mental hospitals were being built, okay, you had the music of the day, okay? And here's Whistler again. Nothing is truly original, but he's coming along and he's creating the nocturnes, and he's the all of his paintings were attributed to that term nocturne, but the music of the day was actually this man here, Chopin. He titled all of his compositions as nocturnes. Okay, and so that's when Whistler says, well, I'll borrow that. So he started doing these night paintings and titling them nocturnes. Okay, so it was one artist and a different design, different form of composition, but very similar to what two-dimensional art is, that they were referencing each other. Like I could do a painting today and call it, you know, hip hop on the corner, or what's contemporary right now? Rapping it up in Carpinteria, you know, based on rap music, right? I could create a whole type of painting genre based on, you know, I just call it rap or whatever is contemporary right now. I don't even know.
TikTok.
What is it?
TikTok.
TikTok. Oh, well, there you go. Add that to a painting, you know. But so the point is, art imitates art, imitates life. Okay. So again, 19th century, that time, there was a lot of romanticism. Okay, time of fury in the world, China, Europe, America. Art was entertainment and offered escape. the paintings of those days, you know, here people love to see a really nice landscape. This was avant-garde because it was highly abstracted. Okay, it was a mere suggestion of what it was people wanted to see. And for a time there, Whistler gained great fame because he was creating these images that were innovative and highly suggestive, and leaving more to the imagination of the viewer than spelling it out like, okay, here's a duck and there's another, or here's a swan and here's a leaf on a tree. You know, he wasn't so literal. He was more abstracted. Okay, so that was the innovation of the time. All right.
And atmospheric, you know.
And atmospheric, that's correct. Okay, so as things started to get more abstracted and avant-garde, you had your traditional romanticism of the fury that was going on in war. And then you had an artist's rebellion to what was going on in war. Okay, this is I don't know if anybody got to see this exhibition of Goya's that was going around the country. These were created by him from his own journal that he never wanted anybody to see. And amazing, amazing exhibition of these drawings. But the point is, this was really, it was commonplace. And people did not have respect for other human beings like they maybe they don't, maybe do today. Same time period, Delacroix dealing with revolution. This is what you call genre painting. Okay, it's an idyllic depiction of war and revolution and romanticizing things. Look at this here. I want to just spell out, speaking of a simplified palette, what was also going on at this time is people are starting to deconstruct paintings. The figures are starting to be, chopped up. Look at how the figure moves out of the page here, or off the page here, and off the page here. Okay, so this is quite radical. These are no longer aesthetic pictures. These were part of a rebellion, even though it was genre painting and it was depicting a glorious event in France. The whole mannerism of how it was depicted is avant-garde. Look at this figure right here on the side, coming out of the side. That was not done prior to the mid-19th century. Okay. Also, mid-19th century. Look at Rodin comes along. It's no longer the Greco-Roman beautiful aesthetic structure to the human form, idyllic and classic. It's more, I mean, this looks like somebody whose body was basically deteriorating. So again, the artists were looking for innovative ways in the 1870s, 1880s to just abstract what it was they were trying to say. In fact, this is all part of my master's thesis here. When I did my thesis, was about deconstructing the human figure in art. All right, cemeteries, we talked about that. The artists of the time, you still had those that were doing aesthetic paintings like Millet, that depicted biblical subject matter, but trying to tie it into the common life of the time. So I call it traditional representational art versus avant-garde. Okay, what's pleasing to the eye. Okay, a lot of naturalism. Okay, you had the Barbizon School of Art in France that was surrounded by forests, and the artists would go out and learn to structurally paint aesthetic paintings the traditional way. All right, but due to the outdoor painting and the school outdoor painting versus studio painting, you had the studio painters that played it safe. They mixed their own paints, and then eventually all hell broke loose when they started to mix up their paints and put them into metal tubes and take them outdoors. And the more they did that, the more they worked to capture the light of outdoor painting. They got rid of their earth tones. They got rid of black. And they just started painting with more pure color outdoors because it was easier to represent the effect of light on their paintings and their design.
Weren't they also getting new colors at this time?
Yes, that's correct. They were getting new colors, and it was spreading like wildfire. It was so much easier for them to go outside now, and it was a lot more fun. You didn't have that isolation so much as being in the studio by yourself and smelling the solvents and things, and so they can get outside and enjoy themselves and bring back an example of the daylight into these darker, lamplit, dingy studio ateliers, which is redundant, by the way. Okay, anyways, but you still had them always trying to figure out a new form of art, deconstructing and rebelling against societal norms, where society kind of, was conservative and really wanted to just see the pretty picture. Okay, life is hard enough, I can't handle the politics of the day. Sound familiar? I want to see something that's going to make me feel good.
Can you
Okay,
scroll the picture up?
Drawing and painting from life. More, what they found was there was more immediacy, fewer earth tones. When I say immediacy, it wasn't about capturing the realism of the moment. Things started to become more expressive. How they applied the paint, the designs of the paint strokes, the patterns that they would put down, started to loosen things up. So when you're seeing one of their paintings up close, it's nothing but a series of juxtaposed adjacent brush strokes. And but from 12 feet back, all the colors that they were working with, which was mostly complementary and split complementary hues, they would merge to form a general hue. So you would get, the term impressionism started to happen at that time. It was one brush stroke instead of 50. Everybody wanted to see the technical skills of those who could paint realistically with 50 brush strokes. But from painting outside and having one brush stroke instead of 50, and working from a color theory of juxtaposing complementary hues to make another tone from a distance, okay, that was shocking to people, right? But it was new and it was fun. And so you had brighter colors, sketchy vitality, qualities, and it was also rule breaking, all right? Now, somebody had something to say really quick. Anybody? All right. So again, you had the traditional genre painters of the time. This is a guy named Howard Pyle, an illustrator in the 1880s, okay, who again utilized structure here, diagonals and large shapes, deconstructing the body, moving it out of the picture plane, everything that the artists in the mid-19th century were exploring with to create movement within a painting, and limiting his palette to keep that antique quality to it. Okay, you had Howard Pyle was the grandfather illustrator to this artist here, N.C. Wyeth. So N.C. Wyeth studied with Howard Pyle, but you can see the influence of the diagonals. Okay, the diagonals here. Look at the colors. Remember the Ruskin painting of the violets and the ambers here? And look at this. Look at the design. Without having such a realistic painting, look at the big dynamic shapes. You got big shape here, medium shape here. Overall, it's kind of a medium shape, but look at all the little shapes here. Okay, so they're having a variety of shapes happen here. So there's it's engaging for people because there's poetry happening. You've got the larger statements being made here. The larger statements, and then you've got some subtle smaller shapes and details and simplified light next to rendered pattern, etc. And look at the portion of this guy coming out of his shoulder. Okay, so there's scale involved here. It's all for a more dynamic expression, okay? Now what we're looking at here in today's painting, we've got drama, anything goes, a lot of shock. You know, how can we shock people into paying attention to what it is we're trying to say? So you've got graffiti art and you've got variations in that genre. Even pop art in the 1960s, there was some shock value to that. Postmodern, we'll get into that. So right now, art is more about social commentary than glorification of the idyllic, okay? There's really nothing new going on. Most artists are just recreating something that's already happened in the past. So this is an artist here, and I want you to pay attention to this because this is what's going to help improve your designs. Not only looking at Howard Pyle, Landecker is another one. The illustrators from the 19th and the 20th century were amazing, amazing designers, okay? Bernie Fuchs died a few years ago. He was a heavy hitter in the illustration world. And again, it was all about having a variety of shapes, beautiful, big, large, simplified shapes, diagonals here, warm, cool. Here's that yellow, the yellow ochres and the cad yellows juxtapose the cool violets here. Simplifying what's in shadow here. Simplifying what's in shadow, maybe rendering what's in light. So
Another master of atmosphere, I think.
absolutely. There's only so much you can say with, you know, only so much you can do, but you're right. He's huge. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say I always admired his work.
Yeah. Let's see if we can bring it in a little bit closer here. So I first became aware of him at Art Center in slide presentation because the artists of today who were studying him then, I mean, still study him now. And the artists of today, maybe 30, 40 years from now, people will be studying their art. You know what I mean? It's just the way it all goes. All right, Bernie Fuchs. Yeah, go ahead.
What did you say? Will you say one more time what was simplified and what was pattern or what was rendered?
Okay, so look in the foreground here. Look in the foreground. You've got patterned area here. Okay, this is almost a fourth dimension here. You've got fourth dimensional perspective. You've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 point perspective. This would be a 4-point perspective. He's changing the design. You're almost looking down at the feet. Okay, this is a very expressive, innovative way, especially for an illustration, to be looking. You're looking like with a fisheye lens, looking down, like so, and like so, and like so. And then here's the fourth dimension. The feet are small, but you know it's angling the angle up, like you're looking down from the top of a skyscraper down into the buildings below. You understand? Like you can imagine being in an airplane or on the top of the Empire State Building looking down at the city streets.
Like 3-point perspective?
That's 4 point. Yeah, 3 point.
It's like aerial perspective.
That's right. So
it's cropping and aerial.
Yes. So here's your horizon line where your eye level is. Okay. Here's 1 point perspective over to here. Okay. Not so much 2-point perspective, but there'll probably be another vanishing point over here. 3 would be above the horizon line up here, and 4 is down below the horizon line. Okay, so these artists stretch the limit. You could have more than one perspective within a painting. Again, but it's creating a variety of shapes and having the eye move around the composition. In this case, there's a triangle that's happening from here to here to here to here, and the contrast of over here is just enough to allow us to go to the focal point maybe up here, and then over to here, and then back down. So he's moving the eye around the focal point, or around the format, in a way to keep us engaged and ever so moving through it. And that's also a result of not only the major elements of design and perspective and line, but of values and temperature. Okay, look at the red here. Okay, the warmer colors are here, cooler colors are farther away. If you squint your eyes, you can see the value patterns kind of tied together. Okay, they tie together in simplified masses. Again, look at the layering of the figure behind here, or these figures back here. So they're not necessarily literal content. They're things that are in silhouette that are merely suggestive. If he had put this guy wearing a sash with a sword or something glittery here, that would have been another distracting element away from where he really wanted you to focus your eye.
So they
Yep.
basically give it depth, huh?
They give it depth through value and temperature. So the
Back
values
figures.
that are up close are darker, and warmer. And then as things recede away, they get lighter
Yeah.
and cooler and bluer. And there's just, like I said, just enough hierarchy and contrast between the boat and here that it's a pattern that's, oh, wait, we want to explore that. And then we come back. Okay. All right.
And then they're consistently backlit, right? What is that?
Yes. Yeah. He loved doing backlit imagery for sure. So
What's
here's
that
a
called?
beginning checklist for you. Okay. Bigger dynamic shapes, variety of shapes, and designs. The design settles the score. Big shapes. Okay. Now, vertical formats, horizontal formats, circular formats, oval. Oh, I have circular twice. Hold on a second. How'd that happen? Woo. That's from the Department of Redundancy Department. Okay. These are the formats. So the formats, a format is basically at any time, it's just going to give you a place to start. It's the launch pad. Okay, it's the launch pad. Oftentimes I'll have a blank canvas, okay, and I'll ask what it'd be easier to do if you could see me here, and I don't have a blank canvas. But imagine I had a blank canvas, okay? In fact, I'll just do this. Let's see, maybe I won't. If I had a blank canvas, I would hold it in front of you like a blank sheet of paper for a writer to look at. And I'd say, okay, what does it represent? And I would go around the room and I would ask everybody in the room what it represents. And now I would do that as an exercise to see where you were and to see what you would come up with, to challenge you. And some people might say, it represents flatness, or it represents, starkness. It represents white, a white canvas. It represents infinity. It represents potential. It represents the unknown. It represents fear in me, and all it is just a blank canvas. And that's what every artist and writer and composer, it doesn't really matter. It's like having a blank chunk of marble that you've gotten from Carrara, Italy, before you, and you know that you're going to have to make something out of that. Okay, and so I'm going to have to mute you, Julie. Hold on a second here. Okay. Anyways, so that's what a blank canvas represents. It's basically anything that you would throw out at me is valid. All right. It's like it's your opportunity to be the creator. Okay, the composer, the creator, the writer, the architect. It's where everybody faces. Okay, it's a do-over. It's a place to make your point. All right. It's like the blank canvas is the beginning steps towards your thesis. Your thesis is your point of view, where you want to go, what you want to say, and then how are you going to state that? And so there's structure to help you articulate what it is you're trying to say and communicate to whatever audience it is. Okay, and it may just be for yourself to make you feel better. It doesn't really matter. But again, the format design is the launch pad. Whether it's square or it's, in this case, and with Bernie Fuchs, it's a rectangular square, or some of them could be really, really wide, you know, which you'll see in the future here down the line, or tall and vertical. There's just a wide variety of what it is you're looking at, and comparing all the shapes that are to come within that format to those edges. Okay, these are your boundaries, folks. Okay, they're your boundaries. They're there for your benefit. Okay, so we've got vertical, horizontal, circular, and oval. Okay, and there you go. And that's where it all begins. So now I want to play this for you.
Knowledge is information, formula, facts, data. Intelligence is the ability to process that information in a constructive manner, our comprehension or our capacity for understanding volumes of knowledge or data. Creativity, however, is that unique ability to transform the information into an entirely original idea altogether. And that's why Albert Einstein, who's arguably one of the greatest creative minds of the last century and comes from a largely academic or knowledge-based background, was important when he said creativity is seeing what the rest of the world logically sees with their eyes, but yet thinking really like no one has ever thought before. And that is why imagination is more important than knowledge.
Ta-da! Okay. Hold on. So do you get that? Imagination is more important than knowledge. All right, any questions on where I'm going to go with this now? Okay, so with knowledge comes choices. So as I said in the beginning, my job is to give you tools, give you some techniques, some ideas, and then encourage you to start thinking outside the box. Okay, and having fun with it. All right, so I'm going to show you this next YouTube that's going to also kind of get you to start thinking outside the box. All right.
Hey everyone, Sekri Yasin here, and in this series I'm going to be covering composition. I'll show you different methods, rules, and tips for creating images with good compositions. So for this first lesson, I'm going to be starting with a method that I find is really important to begin any picture, and that is visualization. Basically, imagining the scene you want to draw before you draw it. So too often, and I'm guilty of this myself, people start a drawing by simply drawing. You know, you'll just take your pencil and start scribbling around, or maybe you have a vague sense of what you want on the page. You think, you know, I have this cool idea of this character, but it's a bit vague, and you try and solve everything in the drawing as you're drawing it. I think it's helpful instead to start your drawing by really thinking about what it is you want to show in your image. What is this picture of? Close your eyes and imagine what you want to see in your mind. Think of it as if you're watching a movie. What's the scene? Where are you? What is the feeling you want to get across? Are you looking up or looking down? Is there a character in the scene? Try to practice playing this movie in your mind until you find the scene, the shot you want to reproduce on your page. When you have the shot you want, pause the movie and try and hold on to as much information as you can about the image you're looking at. Then, when you open your eyes, stare at your page until you can start to see the scene in your mind on the page. If you start to lose the image, close your eyes again and try once more to visualize the image. Even if you can't visualize very well in the beginning, approaching your drawing by first thinking about it and trying to visualize it, it's just a much better way to begin than just rushing to drawing without really knowing what you want to see on the page. So I think it's really important to visualize as much as you can, and think of things like movie scenes. In the following lessons, I'm going to cover some more concrete ideas concerning composition. In the next lesson, I'll be covering the balance between negative space and positive space. So,
Okay. All right. So what I'm doing here is stretching your imagination, giving you a couple of tools there, letting you start thinking, knowing where visually where the sight part of your brain is, or the third eye, the intuition is. In fact, if you've ever done this, have you ever asked somebody a question or somebody asks you a question? You ever watched where their eyes go? The eyes usually go up and to the right. Like you ask them a question to think about something like, what color was the car that you just drove? You'll see their eyes go up to the right. That's where they're accessing that part of their memory. And so, anyway, that's part of the visualization process here. Now what we're doing is we're bringing spirit into form. Okay, we're bringing something that's in our imagination into three-dimensional form. And in this case, for right now, it's going to be our pencils that are going to be part of that process. It's going to be the tool to convey that information. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, I am going to share screen. I'm going to bring up my iPad, and I want everybody to do this as well. So why don't you go ahead and pick up your pencil and your sketchbook. Okay, pencil or sketchbook. And I want you to, if you can see my iPad right now, I'm basically going to just have you draw a format like so. So what I'm using right now is a program called Procreate on my iPad. Okay, so that's not quite square. I'm going to do another one that I think is going to be more square. And you notice the size of these things are going to be little thumbnail sketches. This is a little more square, a little more accurate on that. Let's see if I can erase a little bit of that. This is a little more square. Okay, so just follow along with me right here, okay? Now I'm going to go, I'm going to do, much like the Ruskin format, I'm going to do a vertical format. Okay, now I'm going to do a horizontal format, long horizontal. So it's basically, these two are pretty much the same, okay, but I've just flipped it, okay? Flipped it and or leaned it over. I'm going to draw a circle, okay, or an oval, or an ellipse. I could use a little help on my ellipse. This is very slippery pin that I'm working with here. Okay. All these are beginning constraining formats. Now, nice thing about this this thing is this Procreate is I can turn something on the side as well, like so, or I can flip things around. But no matter what I do, each one of these are going to still represent the constraints of the formatting of where my shapes are to go and are going to go. Formats. So when you're drawing or when you're studying art, one of the things that you first identify to deconstruct what it is you're looking at is what's the format? And then why does it work? Or does the painting work? Do the designs within the format work? Could it have been cropped? Like for instance, I might be standing here in front of this painting right here. And it might have, let's just say it's a landscape like so. And it might have a bunch of trees and things over here, and too much of an element over here that are attracting attention, etc. Okay, I'm just going in here like that. I'm just being kind of random, whatever. But the object is I want to get the viewer's eye to go here or here. Okay, I want to get them to go down this road. Is what I've done with that format too bold over here? Or can I simplify it by changing the format and cropping it? Making my statement just a little easier to understand. All right, so that's why you got to identify the format and do all the shapes that are within that format, regardless of what the content is of those shapes. Is there a balance to them? Is there too much of one thing? Are the values supporting it? Okay, so formatting is key. It is key. All right, now I was going to tell you a story about this sculptor named Jan Vermaat, whom I met in Holland, and his sketchbook was phenomenal, but he was an abstract artist in his sculptures. He'd buy huge blocks of marble, and he would do these abstract shape designs three-dimensionally in his moleskin. And then he would chip away and finish these abstract sculptures. And then he would inlay ribbons of gold and paint within the marble. And it's like, okay, well, that's a form of art. Technically, skillfully, it's pretty profound. But he was an internationally renowned sculptor. But it all started off with the ideas in his moleskin. Okay? All right, so two-dimensional relationships, how all shapes, sizes, colors fit together. They harmonize. So remember earlier, I talked about a little bit about hierarchy, okay, and color hue. So one of the things, aside from format, you can identify the design in a work of art. In this case, this is a watercolor painting by Anders Zorn. Okay, working with yellow, red, black, and a little bit of Prussian blue. But overall, when you look at the work of art, you say, wow, is that a warm painting or a cool painting? Is it a brown painting? Is it a blue painting? No.
Thomas?
It's a yellow painting.
There's no photo of the painting here.
Yeah.
Okay, stand by. Got it? Can you see it now? Who here
Yes.
can? Okay. Okay.
How many paintings have you been showing us? Because we haven't been seeing any.
I haven't shown any.
Oh,
I haven't shown
okay.
any.
Okay.
But you did see the YouTube video, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. All right. So this is Anders Zorn. Okay. Look at the format. Remember what we were talking about earlier is that, okay, I'm going to have a little fun with my drawing utensil here. Okay. I'm going to draw all over his picture now. The format. All right. The format. I've got to do this by finger. Okay. Look at the format. And look at how the shapes within the format are designed. Okay, it's a horizontal format. We haven't done the rule of thirds yet, but you can see he's paying attention to that rule of thirds. And you in deducing after the format, you ask yourself, is it a warmer painting or a cooler painting? To me, it looks like it's a warmer painting. It's dealing with warmer amber colors. Okay. What's the overall harmony of the colors? You can see how he used mostly yellows, yellow hues for this. So overall, it's got a yellow hue. He's mixing it with black, yellow, red, and a little tinge of probably Prussian blue to get where he needed to go, to get his violets and things. Look at the diagonals. Hold on a second. Look at this diagonal here, okay? We can deal a little bit with the rule of thirds right now, even though that some people don't really like the rule of thirds and think it's not as valid as everyone is claiming him to be. Like, here's a third. Here's a third. Okay. And then there'd be a third and a third here. This is probably a third there. I'm deconstructing this for you right now, just so you can see that there are alignments taking place within that format. This is the basic rule of thirds. You can also have what's called a 3-4 pattern going on. But it's not really, we're not quite here yet. I just thought I would do that for fun, just to get me warmed up for using this tool here. I'm gonna clear those out of the way. All right, so again, we're deconstructing what's before us, okay? The dark patterns against the lighter patterns, the big negative space in between here, okay? But again, it's also the color, the overall warmer color to what the yellows, and then the slight complements of the violets, etc., and a little bit of red. But it's not just pure red, it's a grade red. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this and move this up. All right, this is also another painting that you can deduce. It's on a horizontal rectangle. This looks like it's painted in a 3.1618 or golden mean. Okay, we're not going to deal with that today because that involves a little more structured deduction and manipulation using a string, but we can deal with that later. Notice here the decision to crop the foot out of the painting. So you can see that influence from the designers of the 19th century is still playing hold. This is like latter 19th century, early 20th century. Now you notice also the high horizon line. This is the eye level. The high, no pun intended, there's an eye right at the eye level here. Okay, we could do an armature on this. But look at how the colors hold together. Now, one of the ways the colors are going to hold together to make a more aesthetic design is making sure they all have a little bit of each other in their mixes. So this blue has a little bit of this kind of beigey gray here. Or
There's
this,
there's an ugly mother in there.
yes, there, well, don't say it too loud. She might come after you. Anyways, look at the little bit of red here, juxtaposed to the complement of the green. Okay, so it's enough to make it exciting, but he's paying attention to all the shapes as a whole. Look at this major diagonal. You can see my cursor, right? Look at the diagonal coming up here, okay? And where it ends, the value of this. Look at how he loses the edge here. If he had had a hard edge here, your eye would have gone there, and then he would have had a hard edge there and a hard edge here, and it would have been distracting. It would have pulled the eye over to this area, okay? Because contrast is one way of manipulating the viewer and the viewer's eye to move where you want them to go. So if you squint your eyes again and you just basically look at the painting for its value structure, okay, this is what you get. You get the dark light patterns happening here, little bit up over here, but mostly all within here. He wants you to stay here first. And then these diagonals are all moving you up in this direction to support it. He does bring you over here, but not as much. If this were even darker up here, then it would have been too dark and it would have been out of balance. It would have become too important. But now it's just not as important. So again,
The sharpest focus is right at the center of attention, which
yeah, well, all this area here. As a rule, you might write this down. That, hold on a second, my phone's going off. That the eye will go to the area of most contrast. And that's generally where you place your focal point. Area of most contrast. Okay. What did I say here? Some of the greatest masterpieces are simple compositions in music and art. They're easy to look at. One thing in common, they capture the imagination. Parts of things are shown. Elements of the design are backlit and in silhouette. Remember the Bernie Fuchs? So when things are in silhouette, they're easier to look at because you can fill in the blanks. Look at how simplified this is, or simplified that is, and how simplified and tied together these shapes are back here. They're unified. Okay, so in orchestrating your design elements, you are constructing your design so the areas you want the viewer to go will be the areas that have more prominence in relationship to what's next to them, or in hierarchical terms, within that composition, other elements. So the eye will go to the area of most contrast. Okay, you have diagonals leading you out, and maybe a little light dark contrast here and here. And then these are important, but just enough to get you to go away. And these are really not that important at all. And you come back down and here. Look at how soft and blended that is there. And these are just suggestive. So you gotta, when you're painting, you gotta see the picture as a whole. You gotta see all the elements, and this is your orchestra. You've got to be the orchestra leader and tone these things down so these are more important.
Thomas, can I ask, are there ever two focal points? Because I feel like I look both at, like, first at her white kerchief or what scarf, and then at the tail of the boat.
Yeah, they're all in support. Now, if I did an armature on here, you know, because this is the golden section that we're looking at, you would see how these align up physically within that plane, these little implicit intersections and eyes. But we're not going to do that on that because we don't have the time. So yeah, you'll have more than one focal point, but they are supposed to be one more important than the other. They're not supposed to be in conflict. They're just supposed to be, one's the most important, one's slightly less important, and the other's less important than that. Okay?
Is that on tone? Is that on toned paper?
I don't know. Yeah, you can look it up. All right, now I got to move along. Look at music, for instance, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Grateful Dead, Beach Boys. A lot of their music is, by design, is very simple to play. Simple chords, for instance. And one of the things that's nice about them too is that they all have harmonizing sounds. Okay, so music is another way of looking at design, and sometimes simplified blues, for instance, are really cool to explore. All right, so I'm going to go back to here and take one of those. I'm going to share my screen again. Got a new share. And then you guys are going to be drawing here in a second. So again, let's just take this one right here that I just started to do. Okay, I would be asking myself, what's my focal point? I have here, and you'll see a PowerPoint on this too. These are called, these are called lead lines. When a line takes you into a painting, it's called a lead line. Okay, lead lines. My goal is to get you to the focal point, or get you into the painting. That focal point is like here, right? So I'm going to be careful not to make such contrasts elsewhere in the painting, okay, that become more attractive to the viewer's eye than where I want them to go. So once I recognize that, I'm going to attempt to simplify a painting in a way that the viewer won't have any problem getting back there to that area of contrast. Okay, so I've just established basically where I wanted the viewer's eye to go. Area of most contrast of light and dark, and I might lighten down here and here and here. I'm going to support my thesis. I'm going to darken down the sky around that area, darken down the foreground to support that thesis. You want to move the eye into the background, you put darker shapes in the foreground. Okay. All right, I'm going to lighten the road just a little bit here. So now you can see I've got a better chance of making a point. No pun intended. A point. All right, so there's my focal point. It's easy, yes? Okay. So what I just did in a matter of seconds is create a composition where I've got the area of most importance, which is contrast, a variety of shapes. You know, I do have a landscape, and I've got the sky is a big shape, the landscape foreground is a big shape, and those trees on either side of the format are different size shapes, but there's a variety of shapes going on. And I could probably simplify this a little bit more too. Okay, to make a point. Now I've got this whole thing going on. All right. So again, that was just to show you that within that format, I can have a hierarchy of things. All right. Time sketches. Okay. Are you all ready to draw? Okay. So we have here now. Stand by. So we're going to be Okay, so this is, move this over here. All right, so what I want everybody to do is pay attention here. You're going to draw 3 formats. Can everybody see this now? Nod your head yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. All right, we're going to draw 3 formats, and they're all going to be basically like you see here on the, let me get this drawn here. This is a format, okay? It's not square, it's more horizontal than square. So I want 3 of them. They all need to be maybe about 3 by 5 or 2 by 3. That would be helpful. All right, that's the size of the format there. Forget about the content of what I have in the middle of it. That was actually a face that appeared. It was about 1/4 inch in size inside my beer. And so I took a picture of it. Okay. Now, let me remove this. Hold on. The first one here. Hold on. This is a painting that I did, and
Thomas, can't see that painting.
Oh, you can't see.
Not showing up. The format's not showing up either.
Okay, stand by. All right, hold on. You see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So you're going to be drawing 3 formats. That format is probably equivalent to maybe a 24 by 30, in dimension. Okay, it's probably a √2. So when I say √2 or a golden section, you're gonna know what that means eventually, because you're all going to be learning how to do that and decipher that. Okay, so draw 3 formats, about 2 by 3 or 3 by 5, just something that's representative of that, okay? And now I'm going to show you the next one here. This is a painting. This is a painting that I did a while ago. This is a 24 by 30 size format. I want you to look at it. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to draw, say, the contours of the design within the one on the, say, the one of your squares, okay? So I'm going to time it. Ready, set, go.
Describe again what you want us to do.
Draw the image. Draw the image that you see in 30 seconds.
Okay, but we haven't drawn the squares yet, have we?
Yeah, you've already drawn the squares.
You were talking, so I didn't think we started yet.
Really? All right, I'll back it up. Okay, so draw yourself a square. We're just doing basically thumbnails right now. Okay, smaller thumbnails. So 30 seconds. You just draw it, you know, you got the moon, you got the landscape, you've got the horizon line, you've got the foreground, you've got the waves.
I can't see this. Can you put the painting back up?
It's up.
Like, oh, I can't. I only have a sliver of it. And
Okay, who cannot see the painting? You only have a sliver of it. Let's see.
yeah, there we go.
I mean, you're okay, that's 30 seconds. Hold on a second. Why could you only see it? Are you on an iPhone?
No, but it's good now. Now it's good.
I didn't do anything to it.
Oh, it looked like you moved it over. You moved it over.
Okay.
It's been stationary from where I am. Maybe you have to scroll.
Okay. All right, moving this out of the way. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. View. I've got all these little boxes for Zoom. You know, I've got like all my drawing tools and then all the controlling tools. And then I got another box that's got, you know, to see who you are.
Now it's only a sliver. Now I can only see a sliver. I can see
wondered,
you and a sliver.
Do you have that screen, the the Zoom application centered on your screen?
I just went to view options and I just put fit to window, and now I can see the square of Thomas's painting, and I can see the square of whoever's talking. Like
Can you
right
see
now.
now?
Now I can see you. Half the screen is Thomas. Hi, Thomas. And then half the screen is Thomas's image, and it's all everything's all there. Thank you. I think it's good.
Okay. All right. So did you all do that? 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do this now. Okay, so that was what you were supposed to do, is basically just do a gesture, okay? The next box, okay, the next box is here. I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the next box. We're going to do the same thing. Okay, I want you to just
What
design.
size box?
You're supposed to do three formats. Did you draw 3 formats? If you draw 3 formats, the next formatting, you got 2 minutes to fill in the format. That includes the contours. It's just a real quick sketch. Contours, placement of the moon, placement of the waves, the landscape. Contours means the outlines. Okay, it's like a coloring book. And while you're doing that, I want you to think about where the shapes are, how they're dividing up the format. Where's the placement of the focal point, for instance? Okay, where are things placed? We're doing this now without the luxury of any type of structure. Okay, this is all, should be just a blank format without any lines, any armatures or rules of thirds or anything. You've got 1 more minute. And as you do this, squint your eyes and start to see where your darkest values are and your lightest. And then we deal with more values next week. This is just to get you in the idea, in the mode of slowing your eye down and comparing things. Comparing things. 30 seconds. Twenty seconds. And time. All right. Now, when you're deducing your own painting or someone else's painting, you're going to be looking at the painting. You can see up here it says 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to be doing on the 3rd drawing. We're going to be spending 5 minutes now to do the same thing. You've got that format, but you're going to get a chance to create the contours, and then you're going to start to look at the values. So the values are, imagine white and black and all the values in between. Okay. And I want you to give me an idea of not only the contours, but the values of things. That value of that moon is pretty light, but it is not as light as it could be. Look at my cursor. Look at the black and white next to it. You can see it's slightly darker. So once the contours are in, you're going to just start to just simplify and give me simplified value relationships. Sometimes the values look really dark. However, in painting, everything's relative to what's next to it. They might not be as dark as you think they look. It's just that something next to it is lighter. And depending on how light that subject is, that'll determine the illusion of that darkness and its location on the value scale. So if you want to make something look dark, put something lighter next to it. You got 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Two minutes. So if you were painting or drawing from a photo, just like if you were on location, the general rules are, value-wise, subject matter that is closer to you is darker in value than subject matter that is farther away. In an atmospheric perspective, not only is it farther away, it picks up more blue. So if you want to create the window of illusion of depth, you think closer to and closer and farther away, darker and lighter, and warmer colors and cooler further away. Warmer colors closer, cooler farther away. Also, more intense colors may be closer to you, and grayer, atmospheric farther away. 30 seconds. Ten. Awesome. Nicely done. Okay. So what you just did was, now you shouldn't see anything on the screen. So don't worry if nothing's showing up. I just introduced you to a concept before you and said, you got 30 seconds to give me some marks and give me an idea. And then I gave you 2 more minutes to look at the same thing and sketch it again. And then I gave you 5 minutes to sketch it. And you notice that the more time that you're given to look at something, the more time you have to realize what it is you're looking at and diagnose it and deconstruct it. And so that's a process, and one of the reasons why we study art and study design. Okay, so now diagnosing a painting. All right, so we're standing in front of a painting, much like the Anders Zorn painting had a harmony and hue. Okay, you can see this one here that I created has a harmony in blue. So that means blue is influencing all the colors that are there, even the warmer notes that are around the moon and in the sky. There is a little bit of blue in there, so it harmonizes. So one of the things that you, the 4 questions that you ask yourself when you're going to create something, or when you're standing diagnosing a painting or deconstructing a painting in critique, is what color is it? In this case, overall, it's blue. And what value is it? So what I did, I desaturated the color to give you these grays. So if this were a grayscale, you could see that very little on here is black. Okay, if black is like the border that surrounds the painting, if that's black, you can see that my values are not black. I'm harmonizing a little bit, like a 2, maybe a 1.5, 2.5 for my darks on a value scale. And then all the other ones are also fairly low key, low middle key. So if you don't understand what this means, next week we'll deal a little bit more in depth with the value scales. Okay, and then my mid values and mid value lights are here, but there's enough separation in value between my mid value lights and that when I do put on my highlight, you can see that it's still not white. Look at the little bit of white that's around that arrow on my cursor. You can still see that the note of value for the moon is not quite that white. Something not white about that. Okay, so what color is it? What value is it? Okay, what temperature is it? Okay, so temperature is warm or cool. Blue is generally a cool color. Overall, then, this would be a cooler harmony temperature-wise. But if you look, there are varying temperatures. There are warmer blues and cooler blues. These have more red in them up here near the moon. These blues here are more violet. If they have more red, that automatically makes them a little cooler, or a little warmer, I'm sorry. So you have variations in temperature. Also down in the water here, you've got warms and cools in the ambers. Okay. Okay. So it's what color is it? What hue? What value is it? What light or dark on a grayscale? What temperature? Warms or cools? Okay. And what intensity? So for those of you who don't understand color yet, when color comes out of the tube, it's got a certain amount of chroma or pigments that reflect light, and some have more intensity or chroma in them. So they're very vibrant, like cadmium yellow lights and cadmium yellow mediums can be very vibrant. Okay, but then you have your earth tones that are dull. Okay, they don't have much chroma. So you ask yourself, what intensity is a color? Is it pure straight out of the tube, like these highlights might be off in the distance, or this might be really intense? Or is it grade? So what color or hue is it? What value is it? Light or dark? What temperature is it? Warm or cool? And what intensity? Rich or gray? Or you can also say muted. And that's it. That's all you got to know. Okay. All right. So we've got that, and that's it. Okay. So that takes care of that. I'd like you to all learn how to, for your formats, if you look at my hands, Can everybody either spotlight my camera or highlight or pin my camera? Oh, wait, stand by. New share. I'm back to my desktop again. Okay. So if you look at my hands here, okay, you oftentimes see movie directors walking around. Can you see my hands? Right? See my hand? Everybody see my hand? Okay. All right. So you can you frame. We're framing things. Okay. We're framing how they're going to fall in that format. One of the things I do if I don't have a box or a rectangle cut out with a couple of L shapes, which you're seeing here. All right. You can see these are two L shapes, like so and like so. These are invaluable. It's worth going and getting some cardboard and painting it black or neutral, and you can use them to crop photos, create your formats. Or, like I said, you can use them out on location. These need to represent, though, whatever it is that you're designing, they need to represent the format of your canvas. Or you want whatever this is, you want your canvas to represent this. Does that make sense? For instance, this guy's looking at rectangular horizontals on the left, and then here on the right, he's got a vertical. So, you know, one of the things you do, I mean, there's some common sense to it. You don't want to have a canvas that's say this is a 16 by 12, okay? You don't want to do this image looking at your motif with a vertical format around it, and then all of a sudden start working on a canvas and doing that image like this, because this is a horizontal. Okay, I'm sorry if it sounds, you know, funny, but seriously, you really want whatever your design is here with your formatting, horizontal or vertical, you want your canvas to be that, be thus, vertical or horizontal, and the same dimensions. Okay, any questions around that? Because it happens, like somebody will come in and they'll say, I worked from this picture, and the picture that they were looking at was a total vertical like this, but they'll bring in a painting that looks like this. And it won't work. It's not working. Their original inspiration or motif was as a result of the design of the photographer or whoever it is that they're working from. And it won't work in there because they chose instead to try to get it to fit on a horizontal. And what's worse is you may do a masterpiece like this that's a horizontal, but because a client who bought your painting had a really cool frame they liked, next thing they knew, they've cropped it. They've cropped your painting in order to fit in their frame. So that happened to me.
Ouch.
Yeah, they cut my painting down. So anyway, all right. Are there any questions? If you don't have one of these, you can also look at you can make two. If you look at my picture right now at me through the camera, okay, and you can hold up two 1-inch signs, and then you can turn it vertical or horizontal, and you can make a little format out of your 2 or 4 fingers like this. Okay, kind of works like that. All right. And you can make it vertical or horizontal, and you hold it up to your eye, and you know, it's a makeshift thing. It's what do you call old school? Old school. All right, positive, negative shapes. Here we go. Terminology, okay? Part of design is recognizing whatever subject matter you're working with, whether it's abstract or an abstracted figure or something that's normally representative of something identifiable. You have what's called positive and negative shapes. Usually what takes up space, like in this case, they give a chair. What takes up three-dimensional space, or even graphically, it's graphic and flat, that's called the positive space. Okay, and then that which you can put your fingers through or arms through or whatever, which doesn't have anything in it, okay, that's the negative space. So you recognize when you're drawing what's positive and what's negative. These negative spaces here are also called trapped shapes. Down here, this is a trapped shape, trapped shape, trapped shape. You can even turn this into a trapped shape by holding your pencil out in front of you and closing this off. Then all of a sudden that becomes a trapped space. Okay, so terminology in drawing and design, recognizing what your subject is. Generally, if it's a representational painting, your subjects are taking up both positive and negative space. Okay, there's form. Okay, hold on. I guess I'll just use this. I like to say you're an orchestra leader. Okay, I use my brush. Okay, can you all see me here? Can you see me here? I'm going to, maybe this will work. I'm going to, if I spotlight my video, will I come up? Like if I spotlight my video right now.
Yes, you're big and
I'm big!
And the screen's small.
And the screen is small, but I'm big, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
You're little, you're small.
Oh, wait. Okay. All right, let's do that.
If you're on an iPad, you have to hit him, and then he gets bigger.
Double tap.
Yeah, just touch Tom and he'll be big.
Am I big now?
Nope.
No.
I'm putting my cursor on your face.
Yes. And what?
No, you're still like a thumbnail size.
How about if I pin my video?
Where it says view, you can say hit swap video and shared screen.
That's,
All
right, I'm seeing everybody. You're all
I
looking
see
great.
on view, I see standard, side by side, gallery, and exit full screen.
Okay, I'm canceling the spotlight video right now. All right. What I'm going to do, if you can just see what I'm doing, I'm holding my pencil out. I had what I call a Tibetan. Oh, here it is. All right. I've got what's called a Tibetan prayer stick. Okay. It's like an orchestra leader's baton. Yes. I will use this to gauge variations in subject matter. This is my best friend. If I have a brush or a pencil that I'm using, I could use it in the exact same way. Okay, not only can I use it to, if you look at what the camera's showing right now, I can hold the top of it to my head and to my shoulder. And now look what I've got. I've got this beautiful trapped shape right here. And when I'm drawing, I can actually see the angle of that shape from my head to my shoulder. And I could drop it down to my paper and keep that angle and draw it through. So I can use this to gauge all the shapes in front of me or behind me. Okay, I can use it for that reason. I can also use it for alignment. Where does my eye line up with my mouth, or my eye line up, my ear line up with my chin, or my nose lines up with my ears? Okay, this is an invaluable tool to have because in drawing and citing, this is called citing. Okay, you're gauging relationships of edges and shapes to get them to all be in relationship right where they're supposed to be. Okay, great tool, Tibetan measuring stick.
Are there marks on that, or are you just using the space from the
No
top?
marks. Yeah, no marks. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking at myself on the camera right now, just trying to. It's like, oh. Anyway, okay, I'm going to shrink you guys down here. So okay, so I use it for framing the subject matter. Okay, framing the subject matter and getting the design to work better on a two-dimensional surface. So if I go up here, oh, let's see, I could probably do this right now. So framing the subject matter, I'm going to go up, I'm going to annotate this. I'm going to go and go to this tool here and here. Now, this is called framing it. I've got to paint this chair, right? So I'm gonna literally draw a frame around it like this and like this. You all can see this, right? And like this.
Yeah.
This. And like this. And last but not least, like this. So if you take the frame, the chair out of that equation, you now have the parameters of where all the shapes fit with each other. Okay, and then if I had a format surrounding it, okay, say this is going to be my format in a canvas. I'm just going to do this randomly here. I'm going to bring that. I'm just going to draw a format around it. So I now know where those shapes are going to lie within that format. Okay, these are the edges of my canvas. Okay, now look what I just did. Now I have this space here, and I have this space here. I have this shape here. I've got the distance here. This is giving me an idea of where things line up within the format. I came very close to the edge here, okay? So the whole idea then is to give me an idea of the relationships of the negative space surrounding my subject matter, okay, within the format. So now I can choose to either keep that chair in the middle of the format, or I can change and make the format even better by doing something like, let's see, let me clear. Oh wait, I do this, erase. I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna erase this line right here, and I'm gonna change the dimension. Say I was on a squarish format. Now I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna change it. So now the chair is more or less offset. Still may not work compositionally, but now I have less space between the side of the chair and the side of the format, here and here. Chair's not equidistant in the middle of the format. So it's creating interesting variations in shape here. Little small shape here, small shape here, bigger shape here, medium-sized shape here, all right? So this is just the way of thinking. Placement of shapes within the format and where you place them is going to help you make or break your picture, okay? All right, moving on. Point of view, your eye level, okay? Take a brush or a pen, put it to your eye, okay? Can you see my picture right now? Look at this, I put this, all right, what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna place this right at my eye level, like this. And if I'm turning to a profile, okay, I'm gonna put that out in front of me like so. I'm gonna keep it parallel to the ground, put it out there, and anywhere 360 degrees around me at that eye level, that's where the horizon line is. Okay, so that horizon line is going to be very, very important in knowing how you're going to draw something, the relationships of what it is you're going to draw. You've got your format, those are your parameters. Second thing is, where's my eye level in relationship to it? Now, when you're looking at someone else's photograph or your own photograph, your point of view, your orientation in that photograph is either looking down on your subject, looking straight out, or looking up at something. It's one of all those three. Okay, so your eye level though is very, very important for what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next, Thomas? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so we did siding on board, vertical line, horizontal line. Okay, midpoints, Tibetan. Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay. All right, next thing. I just thought of a way of communicating that to you in a better way. So I'm going to go to a new share, going to bring up my iPad again. And I'm going to just show you really quick. Can you all see my iPad now? Okay, so when you have whatever it is before you here, you've got your format. Okay, we're just going to say a horizontal right now. Whatever subject matter you're looking at, you got to establish, is it below you, below your eye level, at your eye level, or above you? Okay, so let's just say it's below me. Okay, if my subject matter is below my eye level, that means your horizon is going to be somewhere up high. Your horizon or eye level might even be off the page, but the idea is that you're looking down on something. Okay. All right, you got to recognize that. So that's going to help you articulate more efficiently and communicate more efficiently what it is you're looking at. Now, I'm going to do this. I'll say, oh, I'm looking up at something. Okay, well, I'm going to turn this upside down. Okay, so I'm looking up at something, right? So I'm here and I'm looking up now at something. All right. That means if I'm looking up at something, that means the horizon line, my eye level, is low in the format. Okay. So y'all kind of understand what I'm doing?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah.
All right. So now is based on what you're seeing here. If I were to say, well, my eye level is now here, because it looks like I'm looking up at something. Okay, it looks like I'm looking up at something. So this would be my eye level. The horizon line would be here. If I were to turn this around, okay, now it looks like my eye level, if it's still up there, up at the top here, if my eye level is still up here, now it looks like I'm looking down at something. All right, so orientation of eye level is very important when you're drawing, when you're designing, and you're trying to create something identifiable within a format for an effective point of view. Okay, so now we're going to go back. All right. There we go. All right. Now we're moving on to the shapes. Here we go.
Okay, wait a minute.
Hold
Sorry.
on.
Okay.
Hey everyone, Zachary Assen here, and in today's composition.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. All right, here we go. Shapes.
Composition lesson, I'm going to be covering negative space and positive space. So right now I just have a blank piece of paper, and there's nothing negative or positive about it. But if I go ahead and I add like a black circle, now this black circle becomes the interest. If you just look at this page, most likely you're going to focus in on this black circle. And this becomes a positive space, and the area around it becomes negative space. So positive space is the thing, and negative space is the thing, the area around the thing. And in an image, it's really important to balance this. So here I have a portrait, I suppose, and it's balanced in a way that, you know, it's pretty classical. You've got a fairly good amount of negative space and positive space. It's almost a 50-50 ratio, where there's 50% negative, 50% positive. And I usually don't like to do that too much, but for an image like this, it works. And the reason it works is that you have an interesting shape here. If this was, you know, just more plain and just split 50-50, it's usually not as interesting. Now, if I change the ratio, so now we've made the figure much smaller, it does become quite a bit more interesting. There's a lot more negative space, which means that your eye focuses on this character, and it almost feels, to me anyway, like this character is thinking, we're wondering, why is this character so small on the page? So your arrangement of negative space and positive space can really affect the mood or the feeling in a piece. So let's look at this one, and this one's pretty much split 50-50. And we have white on the top and black on the bottom. Now, in this case, there's not really a description of what's positive and what's negative, but usually if we just look at this as an abstract image, we tend to think of the black as the positive space. And that's because it's just how we see the world. If you imagine looking at outside and you see the sky and it's much brighter than the ground. So we see this and it's a somewhat okay feeling. You get a somewhat calm feeling. But now if I reverse this and we have the black on the top and the white on the bottom, it completely changes it. It's almost an unsettling feeling, as if something's falling down or something's heavy or it's going to crush you. And that's because, again, we see the white and we assume it's the sky, and then we see the black and it becomes a positive shape, and it seems to be heavy, again, when you compare it to this one, which seems somewhat okay, somewhat peaceful and calm. So understanding the psychology behind it can also change the feeling you get across through using negative space and positive space. Now here I have a composition where there's not much positive space, but there's a lot of negative space. Yet, even though there's much more negative space, we really focus, just like with that black circle in the middle of the page, we really focus on the positive space. And this is one way of making something important. So in this image,
sorry about that.
The most important thing that pops out right away is this hot air balloon, and then the city. And the reason is because this area is surrounded by negative space. It really has a lot of contrast. This is important as well, but there's more of it. There's more black here, and it's also cramped near the edge. So it doesn't grab as much attention as this hot air balloon. And here's another image. Now the difference is between these two is that this one has a lot of white and this one has a lot of black. However, in both of these, there's a small amount of positive space. And in this case, the positive space would probably be this, I guess, satellite. And the negative space could be this whole planet and the background.
Yeah,
or,
sorry about that. Hold on.
Could also be the positive space. So it's really dependent on what you're looking at.
I'm going to back it up.
Much attention as this hot air balloon.
You see that?
Here's another image. Now the difference is between these two is that this one has a lot of white.
Do now.
And this
There you
one
go.
has
Yeah.
a lot of black. However, in both of these, there's a small amount of positive space. And in this case, the positive space would probably be this, I guess, satellite. And the negative space could be this whole planet and the background, or the planet could also be the positive space. So it's really dependent on what you're looking at. You can have, for instance, an eye on a face, and as long as you're looking at the face as a whole, that eye is part of the positive space. But let's say you zoom into that eye and you look at the white of the eye and then the pupil and the iris. Maybe the pupil and the iris are positive shapes against the white, which would then be a negative shape.
It's a frozen.
I think the most important thing
Frozen on the satellite.
and about negative shapes and negative space
Yes,
and
yeah,
positive
it is.
space
It's just the way it is.
how to balance
That's
them,
the
how to create interesting compositions, how to use it to your advantage, how to understand, you know, if you put a large amount of dark at the top of an image, it's going to give you a different feeling than if you have a large amount of dark on the bottom. If you have a smaller image on the page, it could be a lot more interesting than having a larger image. And it doesn't mean that it's well, it's not necessarily more interesting, but it's going to give you a different feel. So it is something important to consider. So in the next lesson, I'm going to be covering.
Don't need to know about that. Okay, sorry about that, folks. It was my bad. I'm still working on this stuff here. Okay. Diagonals, okay. Line. Can you all see my screen right now? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I apologize for that. Here's something that's very interesting. Now that we're diagnosing what is within a plane, within a picture plane here. This is a very interesting thing from Otis Art Institute here.
This is 2D Design Project 1 using point. A point or a dot is the simplest element in the form generation process. According to Euclidean geometry, a point is infinitely minute and has no dimensions. However, a representational point on paper, no matter how small, must have shape, tone, and size if it's to be seen. The perception of a point is determined relative to a frame of reference. For example, a point may appear fairly large when it's confined to a small format. However, that same point may appear to be very small when it's placed in a relatively large format. The size of the point must be relative to the size of the viewing or picture plane and the distance of the viewer, so that it is not misinterpreted as a circular disc or plane. The perceived point used to indicate position or location may be a shape other than a circle. These past two images provide visual examples for the application of point or dot in compositional studies. Points can create lines and define movement. Here, a point is used as a repetitive mark to form a line. The lines formed by points are organized and positioned to give visual direction and the illusion of movement. In this example, sets of points create an irregular curvilinear line, such as a flying movement of an insect. Here, sets of points create 5 short lines. Their arrangements within the format creates a feeling of direction and movement. Points can also describe and divide space. Points can be used to represent a position in architectural space relative to a scale or as a referent to form a grid on which the design idea is laid out. Here's a square shape defined using 4 points at the corner vertices. Here's a point grid pattern on which a design idea can be constructed. Points used as a repetitive pattern, filling space to create planes. The repetitive pattern shows where points were left out to create a visual line between each subdivision. Points creating shape. Points can be used to visually describe the contours of a shape. A simple shape created by using points such as this star or this skull. The success of perceiving a shape defined by points generally is based on the viewer's previous association with the figure. Points creating movement and gravity. Points can be arranged within a format to create clusters or groups, lines, and planes. Depending on the quantity, size, and configuration of the points, compositions can be created illustrating direction, movement, and gravity in a 2-dimensional format. Now, returning momentarily to the example of points as a grid, here we have the example of an overall grid upon which a design might be executed. In architecture, the point can represent a position in space relative to scale. Points can also be a notation, a symbol for a structural member, such as columns. Points creating the illusion of depth. Points of varying size can be organized within the format to create the illusion of depth and distance and of three-dimensional space. Here, the alternating patterns of large and small dots appear as though some dots are closer and some are further away. Point creating tone, visual texture, and depth. In this example of an Indian head nickel, we can see the bas-relief of the face of the coin. Points can be used to create a tone image of the Indian head coin using only dots. The increase and decrease in size and the interval creates the illusion of dimension and depth. An enlarged section of a half-tone image illustrates the technique of creating a transition from light to dark tones. Individual points increase in size to create dark areas. As negative areas reach a mid-range, the points become large and intersect. Now, for any of you that have taken my computer art class DGM 168 will remember the process of generating your own portrait using only points. This is much the same thing as takes place in any digital image where pixels are used. This close-in example of a person may not be nearly as clear as when we drop back and make the same image smaller. Here the point tone image becomes much more legible when it's reduced in size or the viewing distance is increased. Here are illustrations of the development of a sphere, using points to create tone and dimension. Illustrations of a landscape using point to create tonal contrast. An illustration of an apple using point to create tonal contrast. An illustration of a coffee mug using point to create tonal contrast and depth. Here's a composition using point to create a random configuration illustrating gravity or weight. Now for your assignment for part 1, I want you using a small square format sketch page that I'll give you.
You don't have to do that. Okay. Share. So what I just did was introduce you to ways of looking at things and deconstructing them and using patterns to create different feelings and textures within a format. This class is almost over. Can't believe it. We didn't really get to where I wanted you to go, but I'm going to need to give you some homework right now. I'm going to want you to reproduce this. I'm going to be sending this to you via email, and I want you to play with it, okay? I want you to just get a feel with a pen or a pencil. It doesn't really matter for right now. How you can, when you keep lines equidistant here, this is called hatching, okay? You can all see this, correct? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then this is called cross hatching. You can see when they're equidistant, they give you a nice, smooth, even expression here. And when you go horizontal, every time you cross hatch, okay, items get darker. This is called pointillism. And where that guy, even though that was more of a computer graphics class that he was working with in design, this is a very similar idea here, is you take an area and you just start filling it full of these points. And the more you fill them in, okay, they get darker and darker, and then till finally they get even darker. They would eventually all fill in. So take a look at pointillism. It's a technique of like pixelating your paint in a way that you, without drawing line, you're basically creating tones and values through juxtaposition of points. Here, these are little marks like grass, you know, or beard stubble. Okay, the more you do it, the darker they get. Okay, here's just dashes horizontal dashes. Here's diagonal dashes. Here's patterns with little circles or larger points. This is kind of an interesting one. This has undulating patterns here. This here is very interesting too. This is kind of like free flow organic line coming together. All right, so I want you to reproduce this. That's just for fun. You could do this in your sketchbook if you want. Doesn't matter. I just want you to spend some time doodling with the concept of creating, like this is figure eights here. Just do what you see that's happening here. So that's number one. Number two, okay, let's see. God, I wish we could have watched this. Edges, PowerPoint on edges. This is an interesting thing too. I guess we can do this really quick. Take your pencil in front of you, or your Tibetan measuring stick. And if you can see me, I want you to hold it out in front. If you look at my cursor, I will annotate here. Let me get this spotlight on here. Okay, so hold your pencil here. Okay, hold your pencil here, and look at either side of the pencil. Your pencil is here. In fact, I can do this. I can even come here and I can draw a vertical line here. The idea is to compare either side in value and tone. This is just a wall in my house, okay? I'm just looking up and I just took this picture, and if you were asked to render it or identify and describe it, you could see how one side is different than the other in both directions. Okay, very similar. You could also do that here. Stand by. You could do that here, or you could do it here. Or you could even do it, you could hold it up here and compare either side of that line. And the purpose is to add a quantity of value and see the variations that exist within one plane based on light. Okay, so I'm trying to sensitize your eyes so we don't take things for granted anymore. If you were stuck in a hospital bed and this is all you had to look at, you would start noticing that light is falling on the form in different ways everywhere you look. What's closer to you might have more light than here. In fact, that's an interesting concept right there. I'm going to circle here, and then I'll circle right next to it, right here. And you just by isolating it, isolating this circle with my fingers, I can make a little OK sign. Okay, it's the same color paint job on the roof or on the ceiling, but you can see there's a variation. Yes.
Yep. Different value.
Different value. That's right. So, so another thing that you could do, you can actually imagine a scale from 1 to 10, or if you had to say, compare it, you would have to give me or just say 1 to 5. 5 being the lightest between these two, and 1 being the darkest. You'd have to say, okay, well, all right, if this is a 1, this might be a 3, and this might be a 5. You know, if I were to try to quantify the difference here. So the point is, again, I'm just trying to get you to see and not take for granted things that are out in front of us. Okay, so you can make decisions on what what to emphasize or de-emphasize in your painting and your drawing. So when you're outside or you're looking at a photograph, it can be overwhelming, and sometimes it's better to isolate. So if you look at my picture right now in the camera, take a little OK sign, you isolate what it is you're looking at to try to get a true read on that color note or that value note. Because in painting, because everything's relative to what's next to it, what you're looking at is actually being influenced by everything around it. So you need to isolate it. Okay, isolate things so you can come up with their more accurate renditions in comparison. Sometimes I use two hands to isolate the same color, like the sky or a wall. So I can make choices on how to mix up my colors. So isolating the masses, yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's good. Smudging, hatching, and cross hatching. Okay, so I'm going to have you do that for homework. I'm going to have you do that one program. All right. I'm just going to show you this really quick, and then class is over. This is an example. This is an example of cross hatching. This is one of my pen and inks here. I did recently for the crosshatch line of art. I'm sorry, art of wine. It's by Carr Winery. So I've got to try to get this to fill the page here. Hold on. Can you all see this now?
Is the pen part of it?
No, that's just to show scale.
Okay.
So I actually worked from a model in front of me, and but the idea is when you do hatching and cross hatching, every time you cross hatch, it gets darker and darker and darker. Okay, and this is another one that I did from the same series. So these are all on a piece of paper that is maybe you can see I penciled it in too. See a little bit of pencil light right there. So I did the pencil first, made sure all my patterns were correct, and then I inked it in after that. So these are for wine labels. For it's called crosshatch wine. And I'm dealing strictly with values. So it's like engraving as well. If you can see down here, if you look at your money, you know, look at a dollar bill or whatever, the engravings that they would do on these metal plates, this is the same principle. It's hatching and cross hatching. And I'm looking for, you know, lightness in line or darkness in line. And anyways, it's all about value. Okay, let's see. All right, we're not going to have the time to get to the rule of thirds today, but by next week we'll do rule of thirds and armatures. So your homework, let's see. Oh, look at this. I want you to do this. This is, if you can take a screenshot of it, that's great. I got this on my phone. It's called Notanizer. And it's a way of simplifying a photograph, not just taking away the color through desaturating it, but it gives you 2, 3, and 4 values that simplifies the shapes and ties them together via value. Okay, and because this is going to be a huge part of successful design construction is learning how to do notons. Okay, which is the Japanese form of light-dark contrast. This is also part of it here when you go on and you get this. It teaches you, like this might be your color reference. You can get a grayscale, which is basically turning it into black and white. This is a noton, which ties the shapes together, so you see how your composition will be constructed. Okay, or you can go three values with gray as well. So this is going to be a really great great way to improve the impact of your paintings. So by next week, I would really appreciate you all downloading this. If you need money to do it, I'll give you $1.99. I'll give you $2.
So you'll send us the link for that?
No, you just go onto your iPhone or phone, whatever you have, your iPad, and you go into your applications,
Oh, okay.
and you can buy it. I just did a screenshot of it after I downloaded it, and it really makes a lot of sense. Okay.
So what do you want us to do with that once we've got that app? Do we have homework related
I
to
want
that?
you to play with it. Yeah, I want you to do some thumbnails. Okay, do some thumbnail sketches like I did. I was actually going to send you an image, but you could actually also work with what I gave you earlier today too, is this image here. That one. Or you can do, this would be a good one. That would be a good one.
Whoa.
Just simplifying it. And then doing it in grayscale, black and white. Okay.
I have a question for you
Sure.
on how I get your Zoom. I mean, this is recorded, so how do I get that
Okay, I'm
back?
gonna send you out the link. I have to, as soon as this is done,
Yeah.
it downloads, it's downloaded onto my computer. I go onto my YouTube channel and I download it there. And then, and when they give me the link to it, then I will email the link out with it. Okay. So right now, if you want to get ahead of the game, do a screenshot of this image.
Can you send us that image?
I can send it to you. Yeah. I'll do a screenshot. I'm like a yes man.
Do you know what the title is? We could look it up.
I don't know what the title is, but you can take the image and put it into Google Images and it will show up. All right, so hold on. I'm going to do this. Here comes the image. All right, I'm doing the screenshot now. Okay, so have fun with it. It's just going to be done in a grayscale, or what they call a grisaille. I'm sorry, yeah, grisaille, Grisaille. And you're just looking at tones. So you can take it in color and you can desaturate it on your iPhone or on your computer and turn it into value scale and look at the structure. And we didn't deal with the rule of thirds, but we will next week. And
Are we supposed to do this in pencil?
yes, pencil or ink if you want. Okay.
So I have a question. That app will help us turn it into the value scale, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
You have one app that'll give you a black and white version of it, and then it will turn it into a Notan. If you want to know about Notans, you can Google Notans, and there are great YouTube videos out there that people do examples of it. Some of them are better than others, but it's all based on the Japanese principle. I think Notan is Japanese for light dark contrast, much like chiaroscuro is Italian for light dark contrast.
Okay, and so the difference between this and what, for example, my phone will do if I ask it to switch is just that you have more control over how much contrast you want.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yes. You find a wide range. You know, and what's great is that the app will give you all those variations, and you want to try that app. You want to do it until you don't need the app anymore. You just sit there and do thumbnail sketches of whatever it is you're getting ready to paint, whether it's from life or from a photo. And it forces you to simplify your and tie together your shapes, simplify your values, and harmonize. Okay. So, but the app is just to get you used to tying things together, and which makes things more appealing. Okay. You must trust me on this. Okay.
And then we do a value study drawing based on whatever amount of levels we want to do.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. But I will send out the directives with that image and with the YouTube video link to today. And then next week's class, we'll start off with edges, and after our critique. So you got the email. If you do something and you want it critiqued, send it in to me the day before so I can download it. Because if it arrives like at 8 in the morning, an hour before the class is to start, it's too stressful for me. I gotta then do magic to try to get it to where I can critique it and the rest of the class can see it. So it's due on Sunday. Just say that. Okay.
I got to run.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
This has been very helpful. Great start.
Just wait. Oh, good start. Good. All right. I'm glad. Okay. Thank you for everything, you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.